Good afternoon, in this video today we have a match that I had in the KV-85 during the Operation Summer event. This is a tank that I've been quite eagerly waiting to really put on the channel. I don't think I've covered this tank before. And it is one that I've wanted to bring into the channel for some time because this is kind of one of my workhorses that I use for events. So why the KV-85? Well, it's a solid all-round tank. It does obviously have its flaws, i.e. the side armor and the lack of additional frontal hull armor, but the overall tank itself is a perfectly solid vehicle for doing events in. And I've been using it with the Russia 4.7 lineup that I use down below, and yeah, this thing has some great backup, and like I said, it just overall has great characteristics with what it can do. So we're going to go a bit more in depth about the KV-85 because we've never really covered this tank on the channel, if at all, and we're going to talk about how to really make use of this tank. So we'll start out with the armor, which, before I begin, don't consider this a review of the KV-85. This is just a general talk about of the KV-85, and of course you'll be seeing some gameplay with it very shortly. But anyway, so the hull armor on paper at 4.7 seems quite weak, which it is. 75mm of hull armor isn't great, let's put it that way. This is the same armor thickness as a Cheeto and Chiri, and they don't exactly claim to be heavily armored tanks either. If you come around to the side of the tank, it's 60mm. Some medium tanks have better frontal armor than this, and that's kind of sad for something that claims to be a heavy tank. Now, the importance to the KV-85 is angling. As you can see here, it does help the overall armor effectiveness. But of course, the downside of that is many KV-85 players forget about this weak spot, which it is detrimental. Because if we take a German tank, so the Befehlswagen Panzer IV, and you shoot the weak spot, it's curtains for the KV-85. The thing is, though, not many people know how to shoot there, and if you put a bush there, it's going to be quite hard for someone to shoot it. But as we come around to the rear of the tank, this is where the armor actually gets a little bit stronger in places, but also a bit weaker. You can actually use a little trick, which we will point out shortly, in terms of the KV-85, but I'll point that out in a moment. So the turret is, of course, based, well, it's an exact duplicate, I should say, of the IS-1 turret. The KV-85 was essentially an attempt to upgun the KVs, but it kind of fell through because the IS tank was just overall better. So the turret is, of course, pure IS with 100mm of armor all across it, and it's not bad. There are some overlapping parts, and obviously the breach area is quite large, but if you actually go just here behind the gun mantlet, there we go. There is actually an extra plate. Now, it doesn't apply everywhere. It only applies around the main cheek part. The actual frontal cheek part is where it's going to be quite vulnerable, so make sure to angle your turret. But overall, this thing does have pretty good armor. You do also have a weak spot up here, but not many people shoot for this. But the mainstay of the KV-85 is the gun. And this gun is incredibly fun. This is the 85mm D5T gun, and it is awesome. 164 grams of TNT equivalent with 135mm of penetration. It packs a lot of punch in a rather medium-sized shell, let's put it that way. You can also take this shell, which is the stock shell that comes with the tank, although one thing to bear in mind is this has worse angled pen because it doesn't have a ballistic cap, it's just pure APHE, but the explosive filler is generally enough to deal with most threats, and it is something to consider. And of course, I would recommend carrying some HE. I don't care what Harry says, these things have got me out of a tight spot before when I'm being swarmed by light vehicles. And trust me, a good, well-placed HE round can make the difference. So, yeah, the IS, well, I nearly said IS then because I'm freaking IS turret. The KV-85, of course, whilst it doesn't have the best armor, its mobility is also pretty good, and its reverse speed is also pretty good, being similar to an IS series tank. The IS has a bit of a better reverse, but still. And if you're reverse, shall we say, driving towards the enemy in reverse, you can actually swing the turret all the way around, because you only have -3 gun depression, this turret doesn't exactly care. But the amount of times your transmission or engine will eat the shot, same with your radiators, is actually quite high, to be honest. Some smarter people will just shoot the turret, which there's not a lot you can do about that unless you hang on the turret. But the important thing is that you have to make use of this tank's abilities. And whilst it doesn't have the best armor at 4.7, it doesn't have the best overall protection analysis, it doesn't have the best mobility, you can make this thing do some serious work. And that's why this tank is a little bit disgusting in good hands. So, I'm going to cut us to the replay in the match involved, and, well, I'll see you all in the replay. And welcome to the match. I've gotten us a little bit into the action. We're about to meet our first enemy very shortly. The only thing I have left up for the convenience of you lot is the markers to indicate where the enemy tanks are, because it gives it a little bit easier for those who are not as gifted in sight. And I've also left the minimap open, which is down there on the bottom right. I hope that helps anyone who might need it, because obviously we're not all gifted with the most amount of sight in life. And not only that, it just gives a bit more of an idea as to what the overall match is like. So I get cut off there by a friendly KV-85, and I obviously fired my machine gun to show my displeasure, but he soon gets taken out by this AMX up here. And unfortunately, I rush my shot, which only disables the AMX. And I aim a little bit too high on the turret front of that AMX, but I do take out the gunner, which enables me to just get another shell on the breach, and then comfortably take him out for my first kill of the match. My original plan was to push into this warehouse up here, because it gives me a lot more avenue to really work around. But, as you saw there, you just saw a gun flash of what turned out to be a Predator 501. It is obviously a very dangerous vehicle, the Predator, so that's why I'm playing a bit more patiently. But that's where it's going to get a bit more beneficial for us. I'm sort of waiting for him to take the shot at one of my teammates, because then I can pull out and shoot him. Because if I drive outside on right now, he has me dead to rights. And let's just say he's going to one-shot us if we do that. So me, I'm a very patient person. I waited, and there we go. Got his gunner, one of his machine gunners. A teammate there starts laying into me with his machine gun, and in his, shall we say, annoyance, he didn't spot the P-47 coming in, and he gets nuked by it. But we take out the Predator 501. This is where one of my teammates is going to shoot through the smoke perfectly. I'm not sure if he was on like U or Q or something, but he hits the Sherman perfectly, and I was a bit like, how the hell did you do that? But he did at least distract the Sherman, so I was able to knock out the Sherman. Now, one important thing to point out here is you'll see the vehicle I'm about to engage is a Chinese ISU. I've played the ISU enough to know how to kill one, and this guy's actually angling his armor. If I fire now, all I'm going to do is piss it off and attract a 152 shell with my postcode on it, let's put it that way. But luckily, once again, I'm patient. I can bounce to Churchill, wait for him to potentially line up a shot on me, and take him out with a single shot. This sort of smart gameplay can get you quite far in this vehicle, even though it is, shall we say, like it's obviously not the best tank in the game. We know this. But I'm about to have a visit, and somehow I don't die from that. I'd love to know how I did it, but I reckon the engine and the transmission ate most of it. Because that bomb landed extremely close to me, took off both tracks, took out the engine, wounded a crew member, and also took out the gearbox. Which, in most other tanks I'd have been dead, probably a T-34 would have been dead, but, well, this thing could take a beating if it has to. But of course, the key to that is angling your armor. That Nimrod up there is going to come into play later. You'll see him in a bit, let's put it that way. But now my tank's visual model looks completely awful because of the bomb blowing off most of the metal work and things like that. And the bits of metal around the fenders and the external fuel tanks are actually a little bit of bonus armor. Not much, just 4mm of armor, but it does actually make a difference. So this is where the team is starting to lose control of the point. I'm obviously trying to help them out as best I can, and it's something where we have to go, can I help the team as much as I can? And to say the least, I can, because this position is quite strong. I was just checking something there because I thought I heard something, but the important part is that I'm keeping an eye out on my surroundings. I'm making sure that there's nothing out of the ordinary. But then I get strafed by a firebrand, and I thought this was going to be the death of me. Not because of this AECAA, but because it's now given away my position. But this is where I'm using the old trick of driving backwards. You IS players will know what I'm on about here. Whilst I don't have as thick of a backside in this tank as the IS, I can still use the old trick and take out a Sherman in the process, getting myself a 6th kill for the game. Still a lot more to go, because obviously we have to hold this cap, we have to recap for a start, and make sure we don't have any enemy reinforcements, like that Mr. Sherman there, and make sure we can at least cover ourselves in terms of the overall match, because I don't really want to deal with anything where it could obviously pen me. I want to try and get the jump on them. But obviously now we can get ourselves the cap. One important thing to note is I will not spawn a rank 4 vehicle in this match throughout the entire match because I don't die in the KV-85. But I still got nearly 4,000 points from this match alone. It's kind of insane when you think about it. But anyway, so I've been hearing a lot of AA fire over here, so I thought I'll come and investigate. And it turned out to be a ZSD-63, and this is where I'm actually going to load a HE round right after that shot. It takes me a second to go, oh wait, it's a ZSD, I thought it was something different. And by the time I've loaded a HE round, he's already dead. So I just fired the HE off, and I readied myself to take out the Chinese T-34. And there goes him, up like a Roman candle. And you can see there, my points are extremely high, and bear in mind, we've not lost a single crew member. We've only got one man wounded, which is the commander. And even then, it's only a light wound. Sure, he'll lick it off. Ivan's a tough lad. Like I said, because I'm making use of my mini-map, which is why I've left it up for you, and I'm keeping an eye out around my surroundings quite frequently because I thought there was an Avenger medium tank in the area. I'm staying alive and I'm staying cautious, but I know for a fact I've got a big target on my head. And you can see there, obviously I didn't know these were there at the time, but you can see there, there's a T-14 pushing up, there's an Avenger over on the right hand side. There's a lot. And there's some more presents for me. But again, he rushed his bomb drop, and that's that. Now I was thinking of loading HE, but I thought, if that shell doesn't kill that, I'll finish it off with a machine gun. But I didn't need to load HE because, well, there goes him, because I just shot for the engine. It was easier that way. This is where, however, the Avenger that we've mentioned just a second ago is going to start capping. Now, I thought he was on the right-hand side of the buildings. That's why I was looking mainly that side. But I didn't exactly have a visual on him. This is where the driving backwards technique is going to come in handy. Because of this little fella over here. He isn't going to be pleased about what I'm about to do. I didn't know he was there until after he fired, which will be any second now. But obviously I'm driving in reverse. He fires, bounces off the side. I'm not sure what happened with the replay there, but I go straight for his transmission and take out his tank with no issue at all. And there we go, that's a double ace. Still got more to go though, folks. But this is where I spot the ZSD. Again, I don't know what happened with the replay there. But this is where I load a HE round, because if I don't load an HE round, I'm going to be putting shots into that damn thing forever. And there we go, HE round gets the kill. Now I was a bit nervous about that Churchill because I thought he saw me, so I made a bit of a driving error here, but it was alright. So then we reverse, we take out the Avenger, which he was a pain in the bum to my teammate to say the least. And I head back to the cap to go and cap it before that Churchill arrives. And here's where that Nimrod starts flying around having a bit of a laugh, and I thought at first, I'm not really worried about him, but maybe the machine gun might get him to sod off or something. I was originally trying to hit him with the 85, but I missed my shot. But don't worry, I won't miss the second one. Here comes the Churchill, which is quite a big danger, but the problem is the Churchill is a tough nut to crack, but not when you know its roof weak spot. And there we go. Spitfire comes in for a strafing run. The Nimrod's about to fly over, which, here he comes. And he turns on his aerobatic smoke. However, I don't appreciate people flying around in my airspace, so we shoot him down and get a 14th kill. And that is pretty much that. That is exactly how a match could have gone. I'd have gotten at least 5,000 points, maybe 5,200 points, possibly more, if I'd have just jumped out the tank. But after a run like that, it didn't seem fair to just kill off the KV-85 like that. We had an incredible run, we made use of it, we made use of some old tricks, and really showed what this tank can do. And as I said, driving backwards, it's not guaranteed to save your life, but sometimes it can. Anyway, I'll leave you all to it for today. I really hope you enjoyed seeing a KV-85 in action, and I'll see you all on the next one.